Hey coin collectors, it's DC on the Big D looking at the silver certificate from 1957, and a lot of you see these around. Sometimes you see them on eBay, sometimes you see them in an auction. Sometimes one of your friends or your relatives has one of these and you go, geez, what's the value of this? It looks really cool. And let's talk about the value of this, and let's talk about where you can get these and what you can do with them or can't do with them. So let's just start right at the top, and at the top center you see it says silver certificate. Then here it says certifies that there is on deposit the Treasury of the United States $1 in silver, I'm seeing way down here at the bottom, payable to the bearer on demand. In other words, you could take this silver certificate to the U.S. Treasury and they would give you silver for it. Of course, when they were using these, you could take this to the U.S. Bank and get silver coins for it also, because back then, of course, we used 90% silver. So you could go in and get a silver quarter, silver $50. Here's an old Liberty. And if you were really lucky, you could still sometimes get one of the piece dollars. Obviously, the dimes, they were silver. Once in a while, they had silver nickels. So you could get silver in a lot of different ways. Well, in 1964, they passed a law saying that the silver certificates would no longer be redeemable from the U.S. Mint for silver. And of course, in the 60s, they also changed the gold standard. So there's a couple of things went on with currency. And then, of course, we know in 1964, they went from silver to copper nickel clad copper in 1965. So a bunch of stuff was going on with the money back then. What's a dollar bill look like? Well, there's a one here, one here, one here, one here. Here in the center we have George Washington, and you can see it says Washington underneath him. On the left we see another one, and this is the serial number, and they can start with A and end in any other letter. They can also start with anything up to Z and end in any other letter. The ones that are really, if you're looking for the 1957, you're looking for the ones that start with a B and end with a B. Another thing that you should be very aware of for the 1957 Bs, and this is a 57B, is that you need to look at the signatures on them. And on this one, we see that it has Catherine O'Hagan Granahan and C. Douglas Dillon on it. And that's one of the ways that we can date these. Just because it says Series 1957 doesn't mean it was made in 1957. Series 1957 means this note with this design originally came out in 1957, and you see over here it has the blue seal on it, and that's of course that indicia of the silver certificate. In 1957 they came out with these, but it turns out that if you look up when Granahan was the treasurer, and notice underneath her name it says Treasurer of the United States, and then over here we see that this one, Douglas Dillon, was Secretary of the Treasury. Those are two very different positions. The Treasurer of the United States is in charge of the U.S. Mint and also in charge of the production of the dollars in the United States, so that the Bureau of Engraving and Printing is under the Treasurer of the United States. But the Secretary of Treasury is a cabinet level post who works on setting interest rates and all the other things with the president. So this is in the president's cabinet, and this is the manager of the production and storage of money. What's on the back of these? Well, that's interesting. Oh, and when I flip this one over, you see that this is a Series A. So see how this one says Series A, this one says Series B. And you wonder why I have these and they're in such bad condition. And that's because in this condition, they're not worth much. They're not worth much more than $1. So you can get these sometimes because if you try to sell them, maybe you could get $2 for one of these for somebody who didn't have access to eBay or something, or so they didn't have to pay shipping. But, you know, in shipping, you only have to pay, you know, the cost of a stamp because these can just be sent regular. Anyways, 1957A, and of course on 1957A we see that it is a Elizabeth Russell Smith and C. Douglas Dillon. So the Smith Dillon ones were made between 61 and 62. The Granahan Dillon ones were made between 1963 and 1966, even though you couldn't after 1964 give them up for silver in quite the same way, and I'll talk about that in a second. The back, of course, looks like the back of a regular dollar. We have the 1, the 1, the 1, the 1. In the center, we have the 1. We have the seal over here. We have the seal here. Well, you have the design here that's called the Great Seal, and then we have the seal of the United States over here with the eagle and the E pluribus unum on it. All right, so what happened in 1964? Well, in 1964, they said you can still keep bringing these in, but after 1968, on June 24th, 1968, these will no longer be redeemable for silver. From 1964 to 1968, you could redeem them, but you wouldn't get coin silver. You would get essentially silver ingot kind of style silver from the treasury. All right, so these are them. They're just beautiful. It's hard to get one that's worth much over $5 unless it's in incredibly good condition, or if it has the right signatures on them, or if it has a B and a B, you may get up to $50. All right, that's all we have today from Big D Coins, and we'd love to have you subscribe to the channel and leave any comments you might have in the comments section.